dürfte ich wieder um eure Aufmerksamkeit bitten. Wir kommen zum letzten diskursiven Programmpunkt für heute Nachmittag, und zwar zum Pionier innen Gespräch. I will switch into English now. Perfect. I was doing some Google research because I was myself interested to see what exactly is a pioneer, where does the word come from, and who and what do we call a pioneer. And when we talk about pioneers, maybe a few of you will think of their flat screen or their subwoofer at home, a Japanese brand called Pionier. And then I read that there is also a Scottish airplane that was called Pioneer in the 1940s. There is a US space shuttle program, including 19 space shuttles, which is called Pioneer. There is a railway wagon produced by the Romanian builder ICOT in Timișoara, Romania, which is called Pioneer. And my personal favorite, there is an Eastern German Democratic Republic tractor, and DDR-Traktor, which is also called Pioneer. Throughout the United States of America, there are 24 cities called Pioneer, which also want to be pioneeric and groundbreaking. And where does the term come from? Well, it's a French word, and it originally comes from military language. It's a forerunner, a pavemaker, and a groundbreaker. And we have a conversation with two pioneers today. One pioneer that I interviewed many years ago, Zaha Hadid. I was having an interview with her, and I was talking about her first years, about the beginning. And if I may just read out as a short quote, I asked her if she considered herself a pioneer. And she said, you know, in a certain way, yes. And you know what? First, it's a very lonely position out there. You're alone, and you're fighting. And then, once you paved the way, everybody else is ready to overtake. Being pioneer can be a curse. We'll be talking about whatever your experience is, and I will hand over now to Heidrun Primas, and she will be talking to Yasmeen Lari and to Konrad Frey. Enjoy.
You want me to hold your hand? Yeah. I need it all the time, so I know. Oh, you sit a minute.
No, bitte, du sitzt hier, bitte. Da sitzt du.
Ja.
Nein, ich sitze so.
You should sit here.
Nein, hier ist es zu nice.
No, she wants to look at both of us at the same time, so she can control us.
Okay.
So.
Good afternoon. Very nice that you are still here. I'm sure you have already had many inspiring moments and encounters since yesterday. And I'm really happy to welcome you to a special format, the so-called Pioneer Conversation Talk. I want to thank the curators for inviting these people here. It's a great pleasure to make this talk. So please join me in welcoming Yasmeen Lari and Konrad Frey. In her short statement for the Interventor program, Yasmeen Lari says, save the planet, save humanity, decarbonize, decolonize, democratize. As the first female architect of Pakistan and as an architect for the poorest of the poor, Yasmeen Lari's journey from architecture for the elite to zero carbon structures for the masses was rewarded in 2023 with RIBA's Royal Gold Medal. She has conserved several ancient monuments at the World Heritage Sites Lahore Fort and Makli, along with urban heritage sites. Lari has empowered poor families in Pakistan by increasing the rediscovering of ancient traditions to generate income. Since the massive Pakistan earthquake 2005, thousands of sustainable climate-resilient structures have been built through the development of barefoot social architecture and barefoot resource economy, based on self-built zero carbon, zero waste, zero charity methodologies. She has also created eco-enclaves for the decarbonization and greening of Karachi. Yasmeen Lari is the recipient of several national and international awards, has authored several books and publications, and was a visiting professor of Cambridge University from 2022 to 2023. In his short statement for the conference, Konrad Frey says, höchste Qualität schrammt nah am Banalen. There is a fine line between top quality and banality. Konrad Frey initially studied chemistry, but at the age of 25, he switched to architecture at Technical University Graz and co-founded what later became known as Grazer Schule in 1965 to 1967. He then spent 6 years in London with his family at the multidisciplinary large-scale Office Arab. The partnership with Florian Beigel followed in 1971. In 1972, he designed Austria's first solar house. We saw it today, Haus Fischer at Lake Grundlsee. His experiments with the use of solar energy influenced his understanding of architecture and the conception of his designs. The guiding principle of his work is to apply the ideas of modernism in relation to regional conditions and the sustainable use of resources. His focus was always on functionality and flexibility, but also on the atmospheric effect of the spaces. Shortly afterwards, in 1974, back in Graz, he pioneered alternative energy research at Ionemo Research, developed experimental pilot buildings, and worked as an energy consultant in Austria. From 1988 to 2001, he ran a CT office in Graz. Much planned, little built, he said. He taught in Graz, Vienna, Innsbruck, Germany, England, the USA, Canada, and Hong Kong. I would like to start with the points where you decided to bring together tradition and innovation. These are the points from which you have acted as pioneers and as role models for colleagues in the consistent transformation of both local and international architecture. That seems important because we are facing a catastrophic situation in climate globally. So, from this point on, based on your knowledge and your biographies, I would like to ask you to describe how and when and why you made the decision in your lives to take such a consistent and radical path as architects.
You're the pioneer, you start first.
Could you say that again, please? What is a question? No, I'm sorry, because
No, the question is
the
when.
years of architecture took away my hearing ability.
Sorry. So when did you start to change your approach to architecture in this new dimension of responsibility?
Well, I never have, actually.
So maybe you.
No, I have been changed, rather, by the outside. But I can't say that I'm contributing anything anymore to solve or even to contribute to these problems that have been outlined so extensively in the previous talks. And my wife Bärbel said that in view of all these difficulties and proposals of what should be done, she said, I'm missing die Ohnmacht. Die Ohnmacht, what is it, die Ohnmacht? In English, the disability to react to all these demands.
Yeah, so the powerlessness maybe also.
And that's what we're faced with, disability and overexposure und Überforderung. Und ich möchte nicht einmal sagen, da müssen wir ansetzen, weil ich weiß keine Antwort, wie wir ansetzen sollten. Und warum ich zur Architektur gekommen bin, das ist wieder ein anderes Thema.
Yes. Just a moment, she gets her iPod. Earpod.
You're supposed to talk in English.
Well, would you like to talk in German?
But you know English. All right, carry on. I'll use this.
So now you can
So,
talk
wie
in
sprechen
German.
wir jetzt?
Jetzt hat sie die Übersetzung. Jetzt kannst du in Deutsch sprechen. Sie
Ah, well, okay, danke. Nein, ich glaube, ich habe schon
So, okay. So maybe
was
you will,
gesagt zu deiner
Thank you.
Fragestellung.
Yeah. Maybe you can answer my question.
Sorry, will you repeat the question?
So yes, again. So based on your knowledge and your biographies, I would like to ask you to describe how and when you made the decision in your lives to take such a consistent and radical path in architecture. So this change from.
Okay. So I'm sure. Oh, sorry. I'm sure many of you know my history, and I did what I feel I should not have done, which was to build
Ist
these
das
iconic
eingeschaltet?
buildings. And a time came in my life when I decided that it was no longer for me to do that, because I could see the disparities in my country. And I felt what I was doing was I was being in a kind of ivory tower and just pandering to the taste of corporate sector and saying, well, you could do any fantastic building. The money was no object. And somehow, at that time, I felt, enough is enough. And I felt that, there are people like doctors who serve humanity. They take this Hippocratic oath to serve people. And why is it that architects, with their kind of training and their ethics, can't do a similar thing to serve humanity? And so I decided to give up. And as it happens, there was this terrible earthquake in 2005, and that led me to humanitarian architecture, which I'd never done before. because I was not trained for that. Architects are not supposed to be doing that kind of work. So it was a little bit tough, but you learn very fast, because I think the training of an architect equips you to deal with any kind of context. And so when you arrive somewhere where you don't know how to handle it, you innovate. And I think, I found a lot of debris around and I started to use that. And somehow that led me to what I'm doing today. And again, to answer your question, I don't think I'm a pioneer. I think I'm doing what my heart, wherever my heart leads to do. And I just do that. And I hope it's the right thing.
So it's about taking responsibility, changing responsibility maybe. And would you say that you was becoming an activist in a way?
Well, if you look at our profession, unfortunately, even today, I was trained, listen, it was last century, okay? So it was a long time ago. And I find that in universities, much of the curricula is more or less the same as what I was taught. But the world has just changed enormously. And with countries like mine, where, as I mentioned earlier, we suffer from these terrible disasters all the time, and there's a lot of poverty and disparity. But then Pakistan is not alone in that. There are many countries like ours, and somehow people don't think about it because it doesn't really, they feel it doesn't concern them. But I think climate change and disaster is something that's now affecting everybody. And so that's why I was so pleased today to see the 3 speakers who presented their projects, because, I find that I really want a kind of humanist world, and I think architects can create that. So I think if you are empathetic with whatever you're doing with the community, I think you're able to do something that will be valuable. So this is the search of trying to do the right thing, as I said, both by the planet and by people. So that's what the search is. I don't know whether I've got there, but I'm trying.
So yesterday we had a brief conversation about system change we need. So, and you told me you don't believe in politicians. So I would like...
You're going to get me in trouble. I can't go home now, right? Yeah. I think politicians are in for, basically building themselves up. And they don't really care the damage that causes to whatever the environment is. And so I've decided some time ago that I'm not going to bother about them. I feel that our governments are also a little bit lost. They are driven by, World Banks and the rest of the world of that kind. And I think they're taking everything into a very wrong direction. So I don't really talk to them anymore. And I just carry on and do my own thing. And I'm lucky that I'm able to get to people, and they're the ones who I really care for. And since I don't believe in money, so, I'm fine.
You are fine, yes. But how can we then understand democratize if you don't believe in a political system? So democracy is another thing in your opinion, and we as people has to take the responsibility for this kind of system, democracy, right?
Yes. Well, I was born under colonial rule, and I grew up after the colonial rule was over, but our mindset still, I think, suffers from colonialism. So it's very important for us to think that colonialism meant a concentration of power, up here, and then it really was everybody just had to follow. And that's why I feel democracy or democratization of architecture is so important, because it allows people to have a say. They have a voice, rather than us as architects imposing something on them, which we think is the right thing, but it may not be the right thing. But they know what they need and what they want, especially if you have a mass of people who really have nothing except the natural resources around them. So it's their capability, and you have to allow them to have a voice. So for me, architecture is really like giving agency to people. To people who have never had a voice, people who had never had a say in anything that happens to them. But with architecture, and especially with using the materials, And that's why I think, what TNTN is doing is so important, which is using the materials that are right there in that locale. And people know how to use it. And people have their traditions. And you're just exploring how you can help them to go further with that. So you're no longer bothered about imposing something. But that also means that you have to forget about your own ego, right? I had to bury it long time ago. And that's a very good thing also for one.
Very good point. So, the ego. What about the global south and the global north? In some discussions, we say there is no difference anymore, but in this point of view, from the politician point of view, it's a totally contrast.
Yes, the issue is, and maybe you should come in and talk about the global north. Why am I talking about global north?
That would be my question to you later about your idea about democracy. So this maybe we can also talk about this difference, because it makes totally sense to discuss that.
Yes.
Meine Frage ist jetzt so im Vergleich, so dieses, Frau Lari sagt, sie glaubt nicht an die Politik, spricht nicht mehr mal mit den Politikerinnen und gibt sozusagen die Kraft zu den Menschen. Also das ist dieses Verständnis von Demokratie und demokratisierend und auch der Aufgabe von Architektur und Architektinnen, dort einzugreifen und sozusagen diese Kraft zu übergeben. Das ist ein völlig anderes System, als es dann so quasi im globalen Norden der Fall ist. Meine Frage wäre jetzt aus der Sicht des Architekten, denkst du, dass die Architekten da auch in eine andere Rolle gehen müssen? Das hatten wir eigentlich gestern am Tisch, die Verantwortung für die großen Bewegungen und Veränderungen, die wir brauchen, weil ein bisschen Erfüllen sozusagen nicht die großen Themen rettet, gewissermaßen. Verhältnis zur Politik und zur Demokratie. Große Fragen. Entschuldigung, es ist alles totenstill hier.
Schwierig, ja.
Ja, bitte. Genau. Also das ist eine super Frage, bitte.
Wer sagt, wo es lang geht? Keiner weiß es. Und ich glaube, die Demokratie können wir überhaupt vergessen, weil wer führt sie denn aus? Wir müssen bescheiden werden, um das geht's. Ja.
Möchtest du dazu was sagen?
Meine Meinung.
Ja. Bitte.
Das Grundthema ist doch in meinen Augen eben die Überforderung mit den Forderungen dieser Zeit. Und ebenso überfordert wie jedes Kind wird, wenn gefragt wird, ob es jetzt den roten oder den blauen Pullover oder überhaupt keinen Pullover anziehen will, gibt es eben irgendwo das Ende des Fassungsvermögens unserer Persönlichkeiten und des Menschseins. Und irgendwie ist es eine Frage des Respekts, der irgendwie verloren gegangen ist. Und die Demokratie ist ja auch so ein vielsagender Begriff, wenn es heißt, gleiches Recht für alle und Respekt vor jedem Menschen, weil er eben ein Mensch ist, wäre die Voraussetzung, dass deine Interessen etwas den Ärmsten und den Sprachlosesten einen Anteil zu geben von den Errungenschaften, die der Rest der Menschheit genießt, setzt eben diesen Respekt voraus. Und ich fühle mich auch überfordert mit diesen Fragen.
Entschuldigung. Ja.
No future sozusagen.
Nein, das Gegenteil eigentlich. Also es geht eigentlich darum, sorry, so I will change. It's.
I think you're right. I think what's happened is that the way architects are trained, because we are supposed to be the ones who should decide everything for everybody. So there's never any space given to really the clients. And the way the systems work today with contractors and so on and so forth, there's no way that even architects can really influence anything much. And I think the time has come for us to really rebel in many ways in the way the systems are today, because, with the kind of more consciousness about the climate issue, about the environment, about what's doing for the next generations, it's not the material producers or the contractors or even the clients that should decide, I feel. And I really feel that architects, and like you're an activist, right? And architects should become activists now. I think more and more as I look at it, and I said this actually when, for whatever reason, and I don't know why, RIB at the Royal Institute of British Architects decided to give me the Royal Gold Medal, which I believe the second woman to get it after Zaha Hadid. And I couldn't understand, but I think in a sense it opened up new avenues for architects, that no longer is it now considered to be taboo for architects to get into, to expand the canvas of their practice, get into other issues that are to do with human beings now. There is issues everywhere in every country now to do with either homelessness or to do with disasters or to do with ghettos in many places. As we know, disparities are rising very dramatically. I mean, only 1%, I'm told, own the wealth of entire nations. I mean, there's a very big study by famous economists. And so that means the disparities are not only in the global south now, also in global north.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the point.
So then the point is, where are the architects? They're still waiting for commissions that I think Tiantan also mentioned from rich people to say, well, this is how we want it. And we have to follow because they're the ones who are paying. So why can't we free of just serving people who have the money? It's got to do with capitalism, I understand. It's got to do with growth. It's something to do with architects' own ambition to fly high. And I understand that fully because I was one at one time. And so I know that. But I think at the same time, there are lots of young architects who feel that they need a different pathway. And I think it's the responsibility of, and that's why today I was so pleased with the three presenters, and also about Anna, who did in the morning, where they are actually now expanding the envelope. They're not following blindly anything that's given to them, but saying, no, there are other ways of doing it. And these are the ways which are more sympathetic to the conditions, whether it's the environment, whether it's the people who will use it. And it's got nothing to do with what the client really wants. And I'm just so happy to see this happening, because this is what the future of architecture, I think, is. Architects can be great in doing so many things. I mean, they have the design ability. They know exactly how to deal with people. They know how to bring about a consensus. So why is it that we are not everywhere? I mean, we should be in communities. We should be wherever the disaster happens. And architects have, I think, abdicated their own responsibility. So we need to see how we can get them going. Right?
Wow. There's a question in the first row.
You all have to join this, I mean, it's no use in just clapping.
But Yasmeen,
yeah, everybody's got to join in this whole
thing. Yes, absolutely. One point, we have an important point. It's about ego. So that's a problem, I would say. Also with us people, isn't it like that? So when will it happen to lose the ego or to change this kind of respect you mentioned? So I think that's the important question for this system change we need. So,
das sind so große Worte, Systems Change. I mean, a psychologist once told me, well, do you want to be a saint? So there are not enough saints then in the world, obviously, to take us by the hand and say, this is the way you should go. And this morning, a student here mentioned that they are all aware of the problems. They are told of it all the time. But nobody is there to tell us what we should do. Where should we go? What should we avoid, and where should we link up to? And responsibility, ich kann damit nichts anfangen. Natürlich ist jeder für sich verantwortlich in einer sehr persönlichen Weise. Aber eine kollektive Verantwortung der Architektenschaft ist so unrealistisch, weil wir ja eingebunden sind in das System, das wir sehen. Wir wollen das eigene System changen, sollten wir.
Das ist genau das, was Yasmeen meint.
Was wollte ich jetzt? Also momentan bin ich am Ende, aber sagt noch irgendwas, was ich da weitergehen kann.
Sie haben 2 Punkte Angst. Das einerseits, can I speak in German, it's easier for me. Wir sitzen hier zusammen, weil wir merken, irgendwas stimmt nicht mehr. Und wir kommen nicht voran. Sie sagen, das System ändern. Sie sagen, warum soll der Architekt oder wie kann der Architekt Verantwortung übernehmen? Und ich glaube, das Hauptproblem liegt wirklich, sie hat dann etwas angesprochen, das Ego ist das Problem. Wir haben es eigentlich mit 2 verschiedenen Zugängen zum menschlichen Dasein zu tun. Die einen denken an sich, ich, und die anderen denken in wir. Und diese Wir-Form ist, glaube ich, eher in der östlichen Hälfte unserer Welt präsent, als in der westlichen kapitalistischen Welt, wo jeder sozusagen an seinen eigenen Vorteil denkt und so weiter. Das heißt, das Miteinander wird nicht gedacht. Deswegen glaubt dann irgendeiner, oder wir glauben zumindest, und da komme ich auf Ihre Geschichte drauf wieder, dass wir in einer Situation sind, keiner weiß mehr, wie er was zu regeln hat, weil wir Klimaprobleme haben, Arbeitsprobleme haben, Arbeitslose, Armut und so weiter. Wir kriegen es nicht in den Griff und haben die Hoffnung, dass dann einer kommt und sagt, ich weiß aber, wie es geht und ich sag's euch. Und das sind dann meistens die Personen in der Politik, die ein autokratisches System etablieren wollen, weil sie sagen, dann können wir die Leute kanalisieren. Ob das sozusagen die Welt rettet, das wissen wir aus der Geschichte heraus, dass das nicht stimmt. Also haben wir jeder eine Verantwortung, das zu vermitteln. Wir müssen ununterbrochen, wenn es hier, gut, heute hat mir einer gesagt, ja, wir sitzen da so quasi unter uns, ja, wenn am Vormittag junge Leute da waren, dann hat man zumindest ein paar Leute, die das hinaustragen. Und ich finde, man kann so weit die Verantwortung übernehmen, dass man sagt, wir alle müssen ununterbrochen so lange reden, wie es nur geht. Und das ist die Verantwortung, die wir haben. Es einfach zu kommunizieren. Und dann gibt es Handlungsmodelle, wie sie das zum Teil hat, wie sie das heute erzählt hat, wo man einfach das Gefühl hat, man kommt in eine Situation, wo man ein gesellschaftliches Bewusstsein entwickelt, dass wir alle es nur retten oder überleben können, wenn wir wirklich aufeinander den Respekt, den sie einfordern, auch wirklich leben. Und das wird immer schwieriger, weil es eben dieses Verhältnis zwischen Armut und Reichtum gibt und da wirklich sozusagen, das kriegen wir nicht mehr in den Griff. Das klafft immer mehr auseinander. Und deswegen sind Sie wichtig, Ihre Erfahrungen. Wir brauchen sie, weil wir tragen sie weiter, geben sie unseren Kindern. Also das meine ich einfach und das heißt schon Handlungsvorgaben machen.
Danke vielmals. Wir haben hier eine Wortmeldung.
Nein,
weiter hinten. Noch weiter, eine Reihe weiter hinten war die erste
I just
Wortmeldung.
respond a little bit?
Yes, of course.
Sorry, but may I
Einen
just
Moment noch,
respond?
bitte.
You know, I think what you're saying is so true, but no longer I think it's important only for the East or for the global South to do it. Because I think, it's a global world today. All of us are facing similar kind of issues. And architects, I think, have to carry more responsibility than others because they're the most sensitive part of society. They're the ones who know about design, and design is the big factor in changing anybody's life, poor or rich. And I really say that the poor need more design. So they need you need really good designers to be out there, not just anybody to go and work there. They can't. So it has to be people who have really got a good facility with design, but all the other kind of, whatever attributes we are trained with. But I have a solution to this, if I may suggest. I think universities can play a huge role in changing the mindset of the people who are being trained. Yes, that too. But also, what I found is that I found lots of young people telling me they would like to take another pathway, but they can't because there's no money in it. So why is it that we are not arranging for them to be able to earn a good living by helping others? So I'm suggesting, if I may, and I'm suggesting to everybody who will listen to me, that the tech industry in the US actually has these tech incubators. They put in a huge amount of money for them they nurture them, so that for 2 years or 3 years, they're given funding and everything to come up with fantastic ideas. We don't nurture our young architects. We let them go out into the field and say, well, you go and do whatever you can do now. But that's not fair, because once they get involved with the star architect kind of work and iconic work, they can't leave that again, because they're now in that stream. So we have to devise the new streams for them now. And we have to say, look, you want to work in community development? Well, for 2 years, this university, along with the institutes of architects, along with the product, there's so much money in this sector of building industry. They can all be supported. There's no dearth of money anywhere. It's just that we have to now start thinking, how do we help them to actually go and do this work? So whether it's community engagement, whether it's humanitarian work, whether it's eco-urbanism, and I'm very keen they should be out there. There's so many issues now with the way we've got our cities. So, and universities have got to start teaching all this. They've got to have that in their curriculum. So, but all of us have to, as you rightly say, we all have to put the pressure on. Otherwise, nobody will listen.
Thank you. So you wanted to answer.
Soll ich dazu was sagen? Also, wir alle hören zu viel von guten Ratschlägen, die sehr ernst gemeint sind, oft, aber nicht mehr sind als eine Forderung, wie wir sein sollten, was wir tun sollten, aber die Umstände unserer Existenz verhindern letztlich die Umsetzung in einem wie notwendigen großen Maße. Ich glaube, dass das Thema psychologische Situationen, psychologische Reaktionen zu wenig im Gespräch ist. Ich glaube, dass wir haben die starke genetische Veranlagung, die Ursachen für eine unliebsame Entwicklung und ein Ereignis bei anderen zu suchen, bevor man überlegen würde, ob man nicht selber auch irgendwie daran beteiligt ist. Und ich glaube, dass wir alle beteiligt sind, auch die Gutmeinenden, an dieser Entwicklung in eine Situation, die wir nicht zu managen in der Lage sind. Also das ist auch wieder so ein Ding. Aber ich würde, wenn ich was anregen darf, ich würde gerne erfahren von der Yasmeen. I would like to, yes, I'm telling you what I would like to ask you is to tell us about your practical work with those people. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Sorry, do you understand? Funktioniert das? Do you understand? Sorry, just a moment. We have a problem with the translation.
Wir sind jetzt irgendwie auf ein sehr allgemeines Niveau jetzt im Gespräch. Mich würde interessieren, welche Projekte I would like to know more about what you are practically doing in this direction that you are famous for. Just show us.
Just before that.
Just name.
Just before that.
Just name a project and tell us about it.
Just before that, just a moment. We have some people who wanted to say something about our first topic. Sorry.
Wie Sie wollen, also Sie können sich auch gerne vielleicht austauschen über die Projekte. Ich wollte nur etwas sagen, ich bin eigentlich recht dankbar darüber, was Konrad Frey gesagt hat, aber auch ich glaube am Ende, wenn Sie das Ego adressieren, das Problem ist das Ego und wir müssten sozusagen mehr zum Wir, dann glaube ich, ist es ein bisschen ein Ding, dass wir da Dinge anfangen zu vermischen. Ja? Weil tatsächlich ist es doch eigentlich so, da habe ich das Gefühl, bei diesen ganzen Gesprächen, die wir schon führen, es wirkt manchmal so ein bisschen auf mich zumindest persönlich, als hätten die Architekten in den letzten zig Jahren keine Verantwortung übernommen. Aber das haben sie tatsächlich immer getan. Ja? Sie haben nämlich Verantwortung dem gegenüber genommen, einer Kultur gegenüber genommen, die zur jeweiligen Zeit gerade sozusagen von der Gesellschaft in einer Art von Übereinkunft
Yasmeen, Lari, she's not able to understand German. So can I ask everybody to talk in English?
Sorry for these problems.
Sorry.
Yes.
No, that's all right.
So we will.
You can just give me a gist and, that's all right. Please
Yes.
carry on.
So it was about the ego question.
It was
So-
about the ego question, about the question of the we, and in how far architects are taking responsibility or not. And I think that in architects, they always took responsibility, for a form of culture in which they lived or in which kind of culture exists at this time. For example, when there was the time of the modern city and the time of the automobile, yeah, then of course architects tried, because we all thought that this is a great innovation and this is how we want to live and how we should live, then they built streets and kind of different forms of cities. So it is always the question, what kind of culture do we have? Because culture is something, it's not free against art and science. Culture is not free, it's not something what we can give like a medicine. Yeah? Culture is something what is done by politicians, by the whole society. It's something which exists. Yeah? It emerges. Yeah? And we react to that more or less.
No,
yeah?
you don't react. You act.
Yeah, you act, but in the
Because when you have a political situation like the National Socialism, and you say that because the system is like this, I have to act as an architecture how the political.
That's why.
this is not what you
No,
want.
that's
Yes.
true. That's
Yeah.
true. That's
So
why
we
I
need-
say, let me finish this, please. Yeah.
Yes. So
And that's why I think that all the cultural debate, that we have to go back when we communicate with each other. When we communicate with each other.
Microphones for your contributions.
yes.
I would just like to give you a short overview. because you heard that we seem to have microphone and translation problems. No, the problem is that we were switching very often between German and English, and the Dolmetsch people are communicating on 2 channels, and they are super confused with always clicking between those 2 channels. So if we continue in English, that would be super. Thank you for that. And you have 15 more minutes.
15, yeah. So we need to decide how to continue with this conversation. So that's interesting because the level is high. The level, the emotion is high. So we have some, you are not finished, you should finish now. Then we have 3 more people who would like to say something. Please continue. Then.
Totally with Elisabeth, because I think it's totally important that we understand architecture as an artistic discipline, because then we understand it as a free discipline, And this is, and I think that this kind of thinking that the architect has a problem in the last few years, I think, because he thinks that he is not an author anymore. Yeah? The architect lost a little bit the authorship, and in so far he also or she also lost by the same time the kind of what we think is responsibility, because we think we have to, of course we have to communicate with each other, of course we have to discuss and negotiate a lot with each other, that's true, but in the end it needs this kind of person, like you also mentioned, who has really a good idea and who also has the, not, you know, the how would you say, the power and the mood, the courage, yeah, to go on with one's ideas and to develop the ideas and also to, to build them in the end.
Yes.
I think this is really, really important, because if we think
Thank
that
you.
that everything it has to be based
So
on
maybe-
a democratic
Yes,
base.
absolutely.
I
So maybe you can give a short question. So we will sum the. Yes.
Okay. I think there is. I'm not an architect, but I know a little bit about history. And looking at history, I have to say, you can easily detect that architectural structures inform the way society lives. So if you build, for instance, huge roads, people will not have the possibility to communicate with each other from one side of the road to the other side. Even animals have a huge problem commuting, not only human beings. So, I mean, this is what architects do. They inform a society how the society should behave in a way. I mean, it's not the only source, of course, but it's a very, very important source. This is one thing. The other thing is, I would say, looking at the history of architecture, I see that mostly the money came from people from influential people, from people who had money. So they commissioned most of our wonderful buildings in Austria were commissioned by the counts, the emperors, and so on. Okay.
Please, can you come to the end?
Yasmeen Lari does is something very different. She works with people who have no money and who do not pay for what, but there's a commission to help these people, and this is a huge difference. And I just wanted to point it out because I would like to come more to a kind of focus of this discussion.
Thank you. So we have two aspects. Please keep you short, and then I will take to you on first row.
Wanted to comment on the aspect of politicians. So I think as a plan it's really important to talk with politicians, and also I believe in democracy, and I think it's necessary to work in this realm because the work of you is based on regulations, and politicians are also in duty of this. So although if it's complicated, it's necessary to have this contested discourse. And the other aspect is it's not working out in every area of the world, even not in Austria. So what we have now is a generation of young planners who are part of social movements. And through these social movements, some of them are really changing the system and also the way of planning. And so I think you have two aspects. You have the aspect of regulations and politics, and the other aspect is you have this aspect of social movements, and they're really important, because if you're not engaging, then it won't change. So, because I had the impression it's a bit hopeless, and I think it's necessary also in these complicated days to have some hope and
have some hope. So over there, one aspect, please. So,
I just wanted to point out it's not the ego who is the problem, it's also the responsibility, because to ask the client, what shall I do, the answer won't be with the client, but the answer and the decision is mine, and I have to live with the consequences. So this is the one point, because Konrad Frey said, I think that I can understand the powerless feeling. We all have this, And I think on the other hand, it's just too little to say each of us can change its life, because there are rules and circumstances. So, for example, that 1% of the people has as much money as 99% of the rest has something to do with regulations and has something to do with the way the market and the business works. So I think these are the 2 points that have to work together.
Thank you. So I will give back to you. So you are not happy with some... Yes, we are ready with... finished with the...
Yeah, may I come back to my proposal? My proposal is to come down to the practical aspect of your activities. Okay, yes, we don't know. I don't know what you are doing. Oh, well. When you are running one of your projects, please tell us, how do you get to this position? Who pays for it? I mean, all the aspects that you're going through would be of interest, I think, for us all. Could you please
I think the
say
easy answer for me will be, why don't you come to Pakistan and see what I'm doing?
Well, I'm not coming.
No, he's not coming. But let's first respond to these.
I don't understand. Why don't you talk about your work?
Tomorrow I've got a whole lecture day after tomorrow. I've got 40 minutes to talk about it.
We don't understand what you're really doing in practice.
Okay, well, let's see what the moderator, let's see whether she allows me. All right. Okay, well, let's see. We're directed by them, okay? So if they tell me, I will speak. Geht nicht. Yeah, I think you need to...
Hello. You need a microphone. I would just like to give you a short comment on what I'm observing.
It's a disaster.
Yes, super. Thank you very much.
So I like the chaos that we're getting in, because that really is the position
you're
of
totally
our
right.
world.
So we are. Yes.
You see exactly what is the problem of too much basic democratic participation. It can be super and it can be chaotic. Basic democratic situation needs a lead. And I would kindly ask you to give back this lead to Heidrun for the last 10 minutes. That would be super. Enjoy.
It's really...
leading that crazy crowd.
It's really interesting because I wanted to try, really. But we will not... we will not begin with a project description, I would say. So we will talk about you both, both of you, and your to be a role model. I think that's really important. We heard that today, to be a role model, and to empower other people. So what we heard is we need people. We need people who are taking the responsibility and talking about with their experience. They give a kind of idea of which way could be the right one.
Well, of course, I bring my perspective is from the global south, but I know about global north as well. I was trained here, and I was very much engaged with all the things that happened. And in the last years particularly, I've seen a lot of people from the global north, and especially young people. And while I see young women here, professionals who are doing the right thing from the point of view of what they have been trained as, but I do know that a lot of young people who are now familiar or are aware of lots of issues that did not exist before, which are particular to this particular century. And I really think that a lot of them have asked me, they said, well, we want to do what you do, which is what I do, which I will tell you what I do, okay? But, but they say, we don't know how to go about it. So it's not that every young person wants to just become a star architect, or I agree with you, by all means have an interaction with the politicians if they're willing to listen. But sometimes they don't, then what do? There are these issues because there's not that understanding. But I'm very happy, as I said, architects must become activists for whatever cause you believe in. And you must go ahead and fight for it. That's the only way we'll change the system. And the system is very strong because it's been there for generations. So the time has now come for us to, whatever we believe in, if you want the role of the architect to stay on the top, well, by all means, there's enough space for everybody, enough in the profession, enough diversity in the world that everybody can have a say. But what I'm trying to tell is that there are certain aspects where architects are not engaged in because they don't feel it's their job or they don't feel that they've been trained for it. And what I'm trying to say is if you feel that you want to do more than follow somebody's whim or somebody's, whoever commissions you, then go ahead and you must find a way for them, for those people, to also be able to do the right thing. And I think the right thing today is about dealing with disparities wherever you are. There's no community and no city in the world today where there are not enough people who are suffering one way or the other. And what I'm trying to say is that architects can go and they can really help out there. And we are not doing it because we don't think this is for us to do. And I need to find ways for those young people who want to go and help communities, who want to go and say, well, we want to, make a better life or better environment for them with better design. And why is it that we can't help them also? Because I think there'll be many more. And I might also just warn you that the way things are from what I see, and I'm very old now, okay? I'm 83 years old, I have to tell you. So I know that what architects are doing today just by becoming star architects is no longer going to help. Because time will come when the profession will become redundant because we are not dealing with common issues of people. So just think about that. But of course, whatever you believe in, you must continue doing that. But I'm sorry that I should have created this kind of a controversy, but I think it's important because there are these issues that must now be discussed. And architects can take a lead in everything. So why are they not there? And young architects like fiery people like yourself, well, you should be out there too. Why are you fighting for the antiquated system? Why not go for the new system, So let's do it. So.
Thank you very much.
I'm a bit impatient and not satisfied that, like most or all other discussions that I've attended to, stopped with good advice. What you are saying is quite plain, and we all know that. Yes, but I'm a bit disappointed because your reputation goes that you have actually activated real problems in Pakistan and possibly otherwise, and none of us, I think, know exactly what they were about. What were they? Who did you get to do it?
You told me that you've Googled me. Did you find anything?
He did, I
know.
know.
Yeah, it's a pity that you're not telling us this, I must say. Because we all know what the problem is.
Yes.
And we all know that not enough happens to solve it.
Yes.
But we want to know beyond how to solve it. There are so many people who want to do that.
Well, we have a separate session then.
But
why a separate session? This
because
is our only
time is up.
yeah?
Time is up. Time is up for us.
For
Am I
different
right?
people
Well-
here, I think we started with a discussion which is very important. I would say so. So there are different concepts. So you told about the huge changing, and you think that is nothing because everybody knows it and nothing happened. So I think that's not true. I think that's a strong issue you was talking about. Without exactly talk about the buildings.
Well, I'm told
So-
that 2 minutes, so shall I? Have you got
Yes,
2 minutes?
yeah.
Did you that? 1 minute.
So
left.
you're
Only
hoping
1
for
minute.
the end that you don't
No,
tell
and
us about
no,
what
and
you're
what
really doing.
no, we've got 1 minute, so I will just say that, okay?
Please take the
Yeah,
microphone.
my problem, Mr. Frey, is that I come from a country which is very poor. I come from a country where 3 million families were displaced just 2 years ago. My problem is that they have no shelter and they have nothing to eat even. And this is my problem, that I can't just focus on just being a great architect and not being able to help them. So the focus today for me, and I don't need any money from politicians, I might just explain. So I don't need to pander to them, there's no need. And I'm doing it, there's a strategy I worked out which means zero charity, which means people can do it themselves. So put your faith in people, that's what I'm doing. And that means that they can do much more than what we expect them to do. So I believe in people, I believe in communities, I believe in tradition, and I'm taking a lot from the vernacular. And I'm applying it here. And you're saying that is how you innovate. You learn from the past and you apply it for the future, and it all works. I mean, you've got this beautiful Hallstatt, I mean, the town is beautiful. And why is it the tradition of that, of, this very high density, what I call medium density, but low rise? Why is it that we don't apply it everywhere? Why do we have to follow the American model of these road highways? I mean, there were people like Jane Jacobs, and there were people who were objecting to it all, but it still, they did it, and that was wrong. Because we know that the cities are for people, not for motorized vehicles, but we continue to do that. So with COVID-19, we saw that things were changing, and we have to continue with that way, where you say, okay, fine, let's stop the cars. Let's make it for human beings. So that's all I'm asking for. Let's give it
And
to
that's
humanity.
great.
Yeah, maybe.
For me, that's positive message.
Very much.
So you are not satisfied, I know that, but we will continue later on. So thank you very much for, for being here and for being part of this emotional discussion.
I'll be joining you. So, I don't know if you remember yesterday when we had our conversation here, Anna, I think you were moderating it. It said Gespräch. Now, that's exactly what we are up to. So, thank you to all of you for being brave. You're still discussing. I think she did a great job with that. Congratulations to whatever you did here. Thank you for discussing, talking, fighting. Also, thank you to you for discussing, talking, and fighting. How do we continue? One could hear and one could see that you're full of energy, that you have to get rid of. You can do that now immediately because we have a walk through the HTL. And Simone Zopf, who is, how do you say Werkstättenleiterin? The leader, the master of this workshop here, will give you a tour through this building, through this facility, through the venue here. And here she is. Hello. And whoever wants to join to the tour, wer auch immer sich dieser Tour anschließen möchte, bitte Simone Zopf folgen und werdet all eure Energie los, die noch da ist. Und das ist doch einiges.